On October 14, 1774, the Peggy Stewart sailed up the Chesapeake Bay and into the port of Annapolis. On board, 53 indentured servants, a slew of goods from London, and something far more controversial: 17 chests of tea, which had been stashed in the ship's hold. That detestable weed tea, as one account called it, was a hot-button issue in the 1770s. It was subject to special import taxes levied by the British Parliament, in which the colonies had no voice. Just 10 months earlier, growing outrage over taxation without representation had led to the famous Boston Tea Party, as the Sons of Liberty disguised themselves and tossed a shipment of tea into Boston Harbor. When King George and Parliament levied harsh punishments, patriot leaders throughout America, including Annapolis, called for boycotts on tea and other imports. All of this presented a big problem for the Peggy Stewart's owner, well-known British loyalist Anthony Stewart. If the ship was to be unloaded, someone would have to pay the tea import duties, which would infuriate many Annapolis neighbors. Otherwise, the crew and indentured servants, who were weary after months at sea, would have to turn around and sail back to England. The tea wasn't his. It had been ordered by business associates from Thomas C. Williams and Company. But Stewart decided to pay up, and almost immediately, Annapolis was abuzz. A committee of Anne Arundel County leaders convened to discuss punishment. Outrage spread as far as New York, as handbills lambasted Stewart and the Williams Company. Meanwhile, a crowd began to gather outside Stewart's home. As he wrote later, he feared the fury of a lawless mob, and with good reason. Some called for tar and feathering. Others erected a gallows. Stewart and representatives from the Williams Company issued a public apology. "We have committed a most daring insult and act of the most pernicious tendency to the liberties of America." In recompense, they offered to set fire to the tea. But for many in the crowd, that punishment would not be enough. And so, Stewart was compelled to burn his entire ship, too. On October 19, 1774, the Peggy Stewart was run aground with its flags flying. As the crowd watched from the shore, Anthony Stewart was rowed out to the ship and set it ablaze. The event became known as the Annapolis Tea Party, and for many Marylanders, it was a turning point. While some expressed alarm at the violent scene, others celebrated the revolutionary fervor that was gripping the colonies. "From the whole of Mr. Stewart's conduct, I am glad that people have shown so much spirit," wrote merchant Thomas Ringgold. That spirit would only grow. 6 months to the day after the Peggy Stewart went down in flames, the first shots of the American Revolution were fired at Lexington and Concord. For more stories from Maryland history, check out our Boundary Stones playlist and subscribe to WETA PBS on YouTube.